David, can't thank you enough for being like the first guest of Transatlantic second edition. How does it feel?
I'm delighted. I'm honored. I'm thrilled.
Oh, man.
There's so many other words that are coming to me, but I want to save most of my for the conversation.
You are very unique persona, an incredible personality. I don't know you, but I have read a lot about you.
Well, thank you.
And I, from time to time, I read your LinkedIn.
Right.
So it's enough to say that it's fascinating for me to sit like, across this virtual table and
Yes.
have the opportunity to interview you. So I'm going to go through the 7 questions like the 7 C's, and then we're just going to go in free fall, man.
I love it.
Okay, good. First question. One day I got hit by a headline on Ad Age, and the headline read, Agency CCO departing for an undisclosed venture. Now, the CCO was you. Now, bear with me because I'm going to get crazy with this analogy.
No, please. I love it.
When particles in water become part of a wave, they start to move up and down. And this means that kinetic energy, energy of movements, has been transferred to them. The day you become part of this wave that is called like a revolving door, the revolving door wave, your energy start moving up and down until you land at the orchard. But there was that time in between from drug 5 to orchard, that time in between that I found extremely energetic and filled with like ideas, at least personally for me. Is it the same for you? The time in between jobs could be the most creative time of all, or it's just a flat time? How does it look like to you?
It's never flat for me. What I would say, I think that the interesting thing is there's and this is the, anytime I've switched a job and there's an apse between one profession or one job and another, that period of time is infinitesimally small, usually for me. I'm not good with idle time. I'm not good at it's something that I've worked on in recent years. In fact, pre-pandemic, I was looking into transcendental meditation.
Yes.
And it was something that I was very interested in pursuing, and I intend to pick up in short order again too. But I think one of the problems, or some people think of it as a quality, others as a detractor. My brain is always going, is constantly going. And so to me, rest is very mercurial, and it doesn't find me. Rest rarely ever finds me. And when it does, I find it confusing, strange, discomforting. I let it overwhelm me. Spirit moves me. This Christmas, for instance, I took a day and a half off from my mind, from myself, and I was able to just kind of drift.
Did you go idle?
I did. Like in a way that, and so for me, everything that I do, so there's no job and job. There is a continuous stream of creative productivity. And that has been my life since I was ever recognized myself as a creative person. And you can affix systems and processes to it, and constructs around it. But ultimately, I am one constant stream of creativity.
It's so interesting, the word idle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but now I think everybody knows that they ride motorcycles, but I think that's the importance of being idle, which is actually one of the album of Oasis, if I go correct, right?
Yeah,
right. It's fascinating because what happens is, like, if you're riding a motorcycle or even a car, right? And you never go idle. Where in a car you don't know, because in America they're all like automatic gear. But let's say it's like a motorcycle, you never go idle. Eventually, you're gonna you're gonna trip the clutch, because you can't sustain the tension all the time. Maybe with your arm, right? You had to go idle, at least like at the red lights. You had to stop and go idle. right?
course.
It's a remind of, like, this metaphor remind ourselves like that, as you say, Christmas, you took like a day and a half off. You had to go idle. You
Yeah.
had to release the tension.
Yeah, for
Otherwise,
sure.
otherwise it's gonna be impossible for you to sustain at that level,
Well, the interesting thing for me, at least, this is as you go on life's journey and you reflect and you begin to understand yourself a little bit more. I do have moments of being idle every week. In fact, I will have days of idleness, but I look at it, in fact, hours of idleness, but I look at it from a different perspective. Idle is never idle. Idle is a different facet to the creativity that I manifest. So the way that I've always kind of, or looked at it recently, as I've started to understand myself and my process and how I work, I think of my creativity as generative or reactive.
Mhm.
And so generative is usually first thing in the morning or last thing at night, and then I can create myself. I can write. I can conjure images and thoughts that feel very kind of organic to the creativity that lives inside me. My ideas, my thoughts, my fantasies, and they issue forth from my fingers and kind of onto the keyboard, and I can make something. Then there's other periods of time where I can react to other people's creativity and help them and build and improve and tinker with the work that they've done. And that's more reactive creativity. And in those moments of reactive creativity, I consider that being idle, because although I may be helping and building other people's creativity, it's not generative. It's not coming from the core of my brain, if that makes sense.
It totally
So
makes sense. Totally makes
yeah,
sense. We
yeah,
can we could dive into this like for a long time, but I have like other question I want to ask you, but
of course, of course.
does make sense. And it's certainly something that I find very familiar with me as well. Reacting and like being the act of creating,
Mhm.
like in the parallel of idle and like, shifting gears. Anyway,
Yeah,
look, there is a monologue in the movie Birdman that
yes.
hit me every time I watch Emma Stone recite it. Now, beside the fact that it's probably one of the best acting performance from Emma Stone, the writing of this monologue is impeccable.
Mhm.
And there is a passage that I'm going to read for you, and
Mhm.
it can be applied to advertising. And this is the passage, and it say, you're not doing this for the sake of art. You're doing this because you want to feel relevant again. Well, guess what? There is an entire world out there where people fight to be relevant every single day. You are doing this because you're scared to death, like the rest of us, that you don't matter. Usually, I'll let these words pull my ego apart for about a minute, and then I go about like my advertising day. Do
Mhm.
you feel like these words apply to your worst day in advertising, apply to your best days in advertising, or apply to your everyday in advertising?
Mhm. I find it really interesting, the set of words, because to me, relevance is a bonus and an occasional byproduct of what it is that we do. But for me, um, I guess the way that I would articulate it is I create because I have no other choice.
So let me ask you this. If
Yes.
you know that you are relevant
Mm.
and you build your relevancy through stellar work and like, a full line of amazing agency, like,
Mm.
Drug 5. So you know you're relevant.
Mm.
But if you were to find yourself in a place where you are not relevant anymore, nobody cares,
Mm.
nobody pay attention, would you still doing it?
Yeah, of course, I have to. I
No
absolutely
choice.
have to. Would it be this exact thing? I have no
This
idea.
exact thing. Would you do this exact thing? Do you think that your advertising creativity, because let's be honest, It's not, it's it's a creativity applied to advertising. So your
Yeah.
profession doesn't need relevancy, or you could do it if even nobody knows who David is.
Yeah. I would do something. I don't know if it would be advertising. Advertising is very specifically, I love advertising, first of all, I'll say that. But the reason that I got into advertising was a fear of insolvency.
Hmm.
I didn't want to be poor. And I knew that the quickest way to make things
Financially, you mean?
financially, yeah. The quickest way to make things and sustain a lifestyle to which I'd become accustomed, being raised middle class, was advertising. I didn't want to be a starving artist, in spite of the fact that I loved what starving artists create. To me, and this is not because I needed to be kept in diamonds and Rolexes or whatever. It was more just I wanted to make sure that there was food on the table and that I didn't have to worry about a roof over my head. And I didn't want to have those concerns, because worrying about life, which I'm ill-equipped to live. I'm not good at life. I'm not good at living. I'm not good at moving throughout the world in a responsible adult-like fashion. But I know that's a concern.
It's almost a contradiction though, because you say you're not good at moving through life, but you just eloquently articulate to me a very mature way to go through life, which is like, I want to make sure that I have food on the table, a roof over my head. I get into advertising because I want to pay I don't want to be poor. I don't want to go through the fear of being poor, which what an artist, like, you know, a starving artist have to go.
Of course, but that's because that's less about
So you're good at life because
well,
that choice make you good at life.
I suppose you're right. I suppose you're right. No, you've given me something to think about. I guess the way that it's very hard to die.
It is.
It's actually very hard to die, but it's easy to stay alive and live uncomfortably.
I need to think about it. It is like very insightful. Yeah.
And so I do enough.
Yeah, I think, no, you know why? I think, again, what you just say is so interesting, because we come from two different backgrounds. You raised in the States, I'm raised in Europe. But I think like the middle class way of thinking, it's in both of us. And I think is a way of thinking that has been like inherited from our parents. We inherited from like their parents. Well, maybe they were a middle class. My parents were a middle class growing up. They were very poor. They became middle class. And middle class as a cornerstone has that way of thinking. Safety, security, roof on your head, food on the table, right? That's why most of the middle class is despised by a starving artist, right?
Yeah, but I don't despise the middle class or the upper classes or because I genuinely, it's where the circumstances that you were born into are nothing to apologize for.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I can't apologize for the environment in which I was raised. What you do with it afterwards, once you're sentient and you understand the world around you and you understand how to relate to people, then it's your responsibility to live as kindly as possible. And that's what I've tried to do. But I can't change fundamentally who I am and the environment in which I was created. And so I can't apologize for getting a job and creating in the way that I do, with an eye on financial solvency. I have to think about it, because it's the way that I'm hardwired, and I can jump the circuit and I can do certain things to kind of remain artistically pure. and I do that in other pursuits. But at the same time, I still try and bring as much of that purity to the work that I do on behalf of clients, because I understand that the joy of experiencing something that others created is not a preserve of the upper classes or the of elite intellectuals. It's something that we should all be privy to.
Right. I think I don't know if you know, but we in Italy, we had a very controversial intellectual called like Pierpaolo Pasolini.
Yes, of course.
And he wrote a series of articles on Italian newspaper. They were called like Scritti Corsari. And they appear on like Corriere della Sera, which was like the major Italian newspaper. In one of the Scritti Corsari, he, with striking lucidity, articulate like, you know, the middle class, piccola borghesia in Italian, called the middle class way of thinking. It was very interesting. So I will actually send it to you, the article.
I watched in the pandemic, when we were in the pandemic, I pretty much watched all of Pasolini again. I rewatched. I hadn't since film school.
Awesome, man.
Salo is still like, wow, fucking Jesus Christ, that's a bit much.
Look, moon and ocean, tide and spin rotation are specular concepts. Not sure you're aware of what's happening above our heads, but the moon only shows us one face. Actually, there are 4 faces, but we only see one. Only one, right? It's not about that the moon wants to be rude. It's just the way the universe is wired. Now it's up to us to decide how many faces we show in public.
Yeah.
Do you think that you always show one face to the public, or you adjust your face to different situation?
Absolutely. Everyone does. Well, most everyone. But every interaction you have, every connection with another individual, with another human, is another experience that that you have to cater yourself to each separate individual and every interaction you have, because the chemistry between 2 individuals is so wildly different than another 2 individuals. And so every conversation, every interaction you have with another individual is sort of like a collaboration, which creates another organism, doesn't it? So it's like you and I create something else together when we speak versus when I speak to my wife or a colleague. And you have to adopt a different sort of affect, a different pattern of speech, a different way of thinking, because otherwise it's sociopathy. There's no empathy involved.
Absolutely.
So to relate to another person, I have so many different faces. It doesn't mean that I'm two-faced. Maybe it means that I'm multifaceted.
You have like, do you have you know, it's funny because we talked about Marlon Brando before, Kenny, on the call, and he used to say to Johnny Depp, he says like, how many films do you do like in a year? And Johnny Depp say, I don't know, like 4 or 5, and Marlon Brando say, no, too many. Johnny say, Marlon, why too many? And he says like, you know, we don't have many faces in our pockets. We only have a few faces in our pockets. But Johnny like thought in a different way. I do think that we have a set of faces, almost like Playmobil. It's like, you know, and then you interchange it, but it's a limited amount of faces.
I think we have a collection of behaviors.
That's good.
Which are affixed to a core personality.
Yeah.
But then those behaviors mix and mingle with other behaviors based on the alchemy of the 2 people involved in a conversation, or more than one person. Do you see what I mean? It's
absolutely. No, I think like the collection of behaviors, to me, the outcome is the faces that you put in front, in the foreground.
Yeah.
Collection of behavior is the cement that make the face, is the plaster that make the face, that make the mask.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I'm going to use, I was going to go bundt cake, but let's use panna cotta. There are millions of different ways to make a panna cotta, and it's still panna cotta.
Mhm.
And it will always be panna cotta. But the alchemy, the ingredients that you put in. So like every conversation I have will always be David, but it will always be a different version of a David based on the
Absolutely.
ingredients.
Fair question, Dave. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so Moby Dick or The Whale is an 1851 novel by American writer Herman Melville. The book is the sailor Ashman narrative of the obsessive quest of Ahab, captain of the whaling ship Pequod, for revenge against Moby Dick. Now, the giant white sperm whale represent like a menace, represent like the danger, represent something that you can't tame, and it's gonna hurt you. Some ideas feels to me like Moby Dick. That kind of struggle, that kind of fights. And when they come along, I call them like Moby Dick ideas.
Right.
That's the strangest thing.
Yeah.
Now, a few of them I couldn't tame it. A few of them I really try hard to make them happen. I knew they were good, but they had the best of me. And like, you know, I couldn't make it happen, but I swore that I would come back for revenge. So I had them somewhere in a hard drive, and I would be back for revenge. Does it happen to you that you had a few ideas that you couldn't make happen, and you say, you know what, I'll be back for revenge, even if I know that you're gonna hurt me, because it's a Moby Dick idea?
Let me extend the analogy.
Yeah, I love analogy.
Yes. So it's not that I couldn't necessarily tame the whale. It's that a fisherman or client speared the whale, and I was forced to take the dying husk of the whale's body and slide it over into a drawer, a very large drawer, where it lay dormant on some form of life support until another client might come along, or fisherman, that I might present this to, and they take the whale. I'm terrible at analogies. I'm so bad at analogies. And actually, this is historically
You start
true.
well, though. You start well. I love it. You start like so.
So this is one of my greatest talents. My analogies are horrible, but everyone still understands them. And that's probably my biggest claim to fame, is my staggering ineptitude at taking one thing and comparing it to another, drawing a parallel.
But tell me, do you have an idea that you couldn't make it up? Because you have, look, your work, again, I don't want to repeat this, but you had some pretty freaking amazing idea. I mean, like the Treaty of Pigs, man, like I can't even like, you know, I mean, that made history, right? Like, you know, at least for me, that made my history. Let's put it this way, okay? There must be something that you couldn't make it. Maybe, yeah, maybe because of the climate, maybe because of the timing goes off. Yeah, so sometimes I believe like they have their own timing, they have their own biological clock. Sometimes like they're not ready. Like, you know, they sit there, you go there, you grab them, they slap you right in the face, like across the face, and you have to be back and sit down quiet. And maybe 2 years down the road, you come back for revenge. That's when you're gonna make them happen. It happened to me once.
Yeah, well, it's that thing, isn't it? Like the ideas that don't happen are the ideas that maybe don't come off as well, that maybe suffer a little bit in the execution. But I think when you do it enough, or if you have a one of the things that I think that I have, one of my strongest assets as a creative person, more than ability to write or create or think, is taste. I do think I have very, very good taste. And that's one of the key differentiators for me, I think, is I have excellent taste. And so usually with any idea that I have or that I'm able to bring to life, there are myriad ways to make that thing great. And if I'm allowed the freedom to employ my taste against an idea, or deploy my taste. So it's the end of the day on Friday. I'm getting words wrong. Then usually I can make it pretty okay. Sometimes it comes out better than I'd imagined. Sometimes it comes out worse. But it's very rare. This is not meant to sound arrogant, even though it will sound arrogant. And I can be a little bit arrogant from time to time. Not intentionally so. It's just a natural byproduct of the human condition, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I love it. You know, I love it. I don't think it's arrogance. I think like I think you would be arrogant if you would be denying that. Everybody knows that you have great taste. Everybody, come on. If you were to come to me and you say like, you know, I have bad taste, I wouldn't believe you for a second. Then I would think that you just being funny, like, you know, you have great taste. So just say, you know, yeah, I have a great taste.
Well, that's the thing, right? So usually I'm able to pull it off, so it's not an embarrassment.
That's good.
That's the thing. One of the things that I did at my last job at Droga, which I'm trying to do here, of course, now at Orchard, is you know, we have a tendency in the advertising industry to bury our mistakes. Celebrate the great things and then quietly shuffle the bad ones off. One of the things that I'm most proud of my time at Droga, and now we're heading down this path at Orchard, is that we're not quietly shuffling some work off to the side. We're at Droga, I think there was probably like a 90 to 99, 95% hit ratio, as in you'd be proud to PR that piece of work, which is, it's not easy. And most agencies don't. Most agencies make and PR 30% of their work, between 10 and 30%. And so did Droga London grow to the size of Droga New York? Did it match New York's success? No, it didn't. But that was a very unique phenomenon based on an enormously talented individual. And the people that he surrounded himself with, of course, but that was a very specific situation. But London, we did well. We did very, very well getting the work out that we did. And I'm very proud of that.
It's awesome, man. Hey, look, here's something that Danny Sopper say. You know, our eyes are hungry all the time, and they have to be fed with color and lights and flash and humor. Movies used to be so big and colorful, and they used to feed us all. It was a big deal to go to see a movie back then. You had the curtain, attraction, big attraction, bold vistas, the musical. It was an event for a quarter or whatever. Now a movie rolls into town like tumbleweed or a used condom. Nobody give a shit anymore. So you had to keep feeding your eyes and your soul with art and poetry and film. Having fun is an art, you know? And he said this, having fun is an art.
Yeah.
There've been a lot of like talks around having fun in advertising.
Yeah.
The lost arts. You just came out with one of the most talked about ads for Ocean Spray. Incredibly funny.
Thank you.
Do you think that we are lost our way with the fun? Or do you think that it's just a different time and a different sensibility that we are going through?
Do you mean our industry or
industry in general, advertising industry, the creative? Like you look around, it seems that that type of fun, it's behind us. In fact, when your ad Ocean Spray came out, a lot of people celebrated it as that's what we should be doing. That's what we left. That's what we abandoned. I have my personal opinion, which is, I'm not going to tell you which it is because I want to hear from you, and then I tell you my personal opinion about the funny way that we lost, as people say.
We've definitely lost a sense of fun. And it's largely because I mean, it's no secret that awards rule our industry and have done for a very long time. And they're in many respects, they're the end game for a lot of the people in our industry. And what we do is designed specifically to win awards rather than to entertain people or further our clients' business, which really are the two things that they should do. They should entertain and they should drive business growth. And actually, maybe for a third thing, they should not pollute the landscape. I believe that what we do, we have a moral obligation to put beautiful things in the world so that all these messages which are being forced upon us every day are as palatable as possible. And perhaps even give people moments of joy. But in pursuit of awards, and awards are not bad. This is not me besmirching awards. It's what's the quote? Oh God, it's not actually. It's probably a quote from an ad for Barclays that BBH did ages and ages ago. It was Samuel L. Jackson. I can't believe I'm remembering this because it's deep in the recesses of my mind. But it's money is not evil. It's love of money that is evil.
Right.
And the same can be applied to awards. The same quote can be applied to awards. And I think for the past 15 years or so, and it began with the advent of the internet, or advertising's relevance as a means of communicating our clients' messages over the internet. I think our industry became obsessed with tech and cracking tech, but in pursuit of winning awards. Mm-hmm. And that was supplanted by a desire to do good in the world, altruism, but in pursuit of awards, not because we actually want to do good, but because we want to do awards. We want to win awards for work that purports to be doing good, right, but then doesn't. Right. And as a consequence, we've lost 2 generations of talent who are better fixed to make case study videos for things that didn't necessarily happen, rather than focusing on the tools that make our work great, which is brilliant ideas, brilliant.
That's our Allen Ginsberg howl. I saw the best mind of our generation, like slaying over like case study videos, rather than, coming up with ideas.
Now, this is not me saying that tech is bad or doing good in the world is bad. I believe the internet is has limitless potential, and I believe that doing good is great, and advertising that actually does change the world is wildly important. But it's not the motivating factor behind a lot of why people do these things.
Somehow I agree with you, and building on that thought though, let's say how old is advertising? Or is like 100-year-old, like, something like that.
It's post-industrial revolution, I'm pretty sure, in its current form.
Say advertising, like compare advertising to a human being, a lifespan of a human being, right? It goes through different phases. When he's a kid, when he's a teenager, a toddler, like, an adult, a young adult, and then like, going to the elderly age. And I think like through all these phases, it feels and behave in different way. And I think what you just say about, lost the art of being fun is true. But I think also like we are children of our times. So I think also maybe it's the time we're going through. All the things that happen around us that change the way we feel, change the way we laugh. I don't think there are things that were done 10 years ago that make you laugh now. I think like Steve Carell say that I couldn't make The Office in 2022. It wouldn't make you laugh. Is it bad or is it good that doesn't make you laugh? No, it's just different. It's just
Sure.
different. I think you go through life, nothing stay the same. So maybe it's also part of like the natural evolution, good or bad, but it's an evolution of the advertising system. Maybe we just have
Perhaps.
a different way of being funny, or maybe our different way of being funny is not being funny at all, or being less funny. You know, I don't know, man. I've been thinking about it a lot, and
I generally tend to think, I look at the mediums that we use to communicate the information that we're paid to. And they are, in the present day, and have been since, as we've said, since the Industrial Revolution, they're designed to rival the media in which they're situated. So the posters are designed to look like, well, posters. The advertising posters are designed to look like posters, and commercials are designed to compete with television programming or cinema or online. So we're an interruption, but we're an interruption that is by design adopts the format of the thing that we're interrupting, so as to compete with it, but with paid messaging. And so our first job, apart from communicating our advertiser's message, is to entertain people. And so for me, fun is always going to be an integral part of that, whether it's comedic fun or something else.
drama is entertaining too, though.
Sorry?
Drama
No, absolutely.
is
Absolutely.
entertaining as
Well,
well.
that's why I say, as long as we're entertaining people,
Right. Yeah,
then
that's
that's
the
what's
point.
most important. And it feels like we've lost a lot of that.
Yeah, that's I agree with that, with the entertainment. Yeah, we lost the way of entertaining.
Exactly. And so what you've diagnosed, which is an absence of fun in our industry, while that may be true, it's non-essential. Whereas entertainment, and there is an absence of entertainment in our industry, for me, is the bigger problem.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Look, periods of sea level rises through history obliterate some of the most fascinating technology in history. Think of the Great Pyramids. To these days, we don't know how they transported those giant blocks of granite and what method they use. Yeah, a lot of like, assumptions, a lot of like, research. But once you get your head around this, you start thinking about the giant container of technological knowledge that got lost throughout history. You have to start all over again, all over again. So my question is like, if everything will be wiped out right at this moment, and you have to start all over again, where would you start?
Where would I start?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So
if everything in advertising, as
yeah.
you know it, it would be if someone comes to you and say, okay, look, David, let's wipe everything out. Blank canvas. Start with something. What would you start again? Wipe all technology, everything. Wipe AI, wipe everything we have seen so far. Would you start with pen and paper? Would you start with sitting outside the porch, like thinking of ideas? Or would you start with a laugh? I don't know. I'm just like thinking.
No, of course. It's a fascinating question. I think I would start with a conversation.
That's good. That's great.
I think I would just, because there was an interesting thing that happened during the pandemic, which I found fascinating. One of the things that I've been accused of historically is the fact that I'm too much of a consumer myself. And you get branded materialistic if you buy too much or care too much about material goods. And during the pandemic, when the stores opened up again, but there were hardly any customers in these places. I still went around to them because I was excited to be back in amongst the people and in public spaces, experiencing life and experiencing culture. And I realized that humanity and the relationships that I've formed and the things that I enjoy with others are such an integral part of why I enjoy them. And part of the reason that I like consuming things is because they're everything that you see and experience in the world is an act of creativity by another individual. And when you share that with another individual, it's so much more rewarding. And so when I think about level setting everything, the first thing that's going to be the most important to me is a conversation with another individual about the culture in which we find ourselves. For me, I am proud to be a consumer because what I'm buying and what I am amassing is a collection of beautiful artifacts that are the products of other people's imagination and ingenuity and skill. And to me, that's the greatest thing. It's what connects us all. And so my first port of call for filling the world again with creativity is understanding other individuals, having those conversations, and communicating from person to person what's in my mind and learning what's in theirs.
I love it. You know, there was when I was like writing down this question, somehow what I love about America, you don't see very much, you know, the part of the world, certainly not in Italy, but wherever there is a construction site that they destroy and they rebuild, destroy and rebuild. There is one down the street here from me. No matter how big is the construction site, the first thing they do, they stick a flag. Have you noticed?
I haven't.
Yeah, the first thing they do, they stick at the least, that's what they do here. They stick a flag and then they start working for 1 year, 2 years, they build houses. But that flag is always there. The American flag is always there. The idea of like, okay, I stick a flag and I start building.
Yeah.
Sound like romantic.
It is.
Any time of destroy and like, you know, tragedy, you can see like, you know, with the 9/11, first thing it was like a stack of flag and they started building.
Yes.
The idea of like planting a flag, the idea of planting a flag is so fascinating. It's like, it's such a human act. We did it on the moon, right?
Yeah.
First thing we did, we took a step and stuck a flag on the moon.
It's a representation of intention, isn't it? Not just the intention of what you're about to do, but about who is about to do it and what they stand for.
Man, this was an amazing conversation. I gotta say, I have the last question, very quick, one word. If there was a wind that blow your sail, you had to name it, what would the name be?
A wind that blows my sail?
Yeah.
I'm like, my mind is trying to get something that's not the big fart, but I keep going back to the big fart.
Stay with that. Stay with that, brother.
I was trying to find something more intellectual, but like, there's something so we are living in that we are experiencing in real time the big joke, and it's life is comedy and it's incredible. It's like everything that's surrounded. There is one joke, and yeah, it's the big fart.
It's true, man. Hey, thank you so much, man. Like, it was awesome. It wasn't a conversation that honestly could have gone like out of 3 hours for me, but I know they
same here, but we were very disciplined.